Are you crazy? That was my lawyer, Donald Jenkins. They have a rock-solid case. There are probably a dozen witnesses, including your wife, not to mention the very clear videos from, not one, not two, but 3 separate security cameras, all in broad daylight. Your fingerprints and DNA are all over the weapon you used. Your motive is very well documented. That's not even mentioning that the police officers actually caught you in the act and had their body cams on showing you attacking him. Yep, all very good points. I could see where he thought I might be insane to refuse the plea deal that I was being offered. I plead guilty and get 5 years with another 5 probation. Or I get convicted in court and risk the judge sentencing me to 15 to 20. Then again, if I were a normal, intelligent person, I probably wouldn't be in this situation in the first place. First, it would have been best if I didn't actually commit the crime. Or if I did, I would have been much smarter about it and at least tried to cover my tracks. Nope, I did it and didn't care who knew about it. Look, you hired me to represent and advise you. I'm telling you that you don't stand a chance at trial. The DA is only offering this deal because of the backlog of court cases. Giving you this deal eliminates the cost and time of a trial that isn't necessary. My best advice is to take the deal. You are not getting off on this. No lawyer in the world can get you off on this. I can't even put up any defense. If we go to trial, all I will be able to do is sit beside you and watch the DA tear you apart. There isn't even anything that I can argue. Once the prosecution rests, I will simply rest my case as well. I can't even call a single witness to defend you. You're in trouble. The only thing you can do is to lessen the punishment as much as possible by serving the least amount of time possible. Going to trial will only cost you a lot of money and make things worse for yourself. So, counselor, when will the trial be? How long will it last? And how long after that until sentencing? I asked. His eyes kind of glazed over as he tried to come to terms with the fact that I simply didn't care. Because of the backlog, the actual trial will be in about 6 months. Before that, there will be your arraignment, hearings on the charges brought, evidentiary hearings. I'll make motions that will have to be heard. The DA will make motions, and a few other things. All I can do is try to delay the trial, but it won't make any difference. Fine. You need to call my sister and let her know what my bail will be. She'll bail me out. That's not going to be cheap. Not your problem. Also, send her your invoices. She'll make sure to take care of them. He left. I'm sure that he was thinking about getting a mental evaluation on me. Perhaps there might be an insanity defense. That was fine with me. I had no issue with paying more money to him for doing his best, not that it would actually matter. Oh, you may be wondering what's going on. Let me go back a couple of months. So, my name is Dan Malloy. I'm 56 years old and live with my loving wife, Kimberly. We've been married for 25 years and have 2 amazing daughters, Gina and Susan. Gina is 22 and a senior in college. Like me, she is studying mechanical engineering. Sue is 20 and studying business administration. They are planning on taking over my firm when I retire. It's a small firm and we are not wealthy, but we are comfortable. We own our home, still making payments, but there are only a few more years left on that. We drive decent cars, even if they aren't top-of-the-line luxury automobiles. I have made sure that I put enough away in my investment accounts to retire comfortably when I turn 65. Kimberly has been a stay-at-home mom since Gina was born. Once both kids were fully involved in school, she did some volunteering at different charities as a way to get out of the house while the girls were in school. When Sue left for college, her volunteering hours increased to make up for becoming empty nesters. I had no problem with that and even encouraged her. It made her happy and allowed us to attend several more evening events. Kim and I used to have an amazing life while we were dating, engaged, and first married. Having kids slowed us down a bit. As the kids grew, our responsibilities increased and we aged. Things became a bit less adventurous. Everything came crashing down on a bright autumn morning. I had been to the doctor a week before to have some tests run. I had been feeling tired and low on energy for a while. Kim had noticed and urged me to make an appointment. I was feeling down when I walked out of the office. The test results were in. I decided not to return to the office that day. I needed to go somewhere and think. There were plans to be made and decisions that needed to happen. I also needed to consider what I was going to tell my wife and daughters. I was headed to a little sports bar that I liked to get a burger and think over a couple drinks. I was at a stoplight by the local college when I noticed my wife's car pull out. That wasn't a surprise. One of the things she did was tutor at the college. She has a degree in English from before we got married and always loved literature. During her spare time, she tutored some students on campus. What surprised me was that she wasn't alone. In fact, she wasn't even driving. Kim was sitting in the passenger seat as some young and very imposing black kid was driving. I was 2 cars back at the light, and they hadn't seen me. It was very evident, even from the quick glimpse I got, that Kim's sole focus was on the kid driving. The whole scene felt off. Since they had turned onto the road in front of me and in the same direction, I decided to follow. I made sure to keep a distance of at least 2 cars between us. It didn't matter. 5 minutes later, I watched as they pulled into a low-end motel. As they turned right to enter the motel's parking lot, I turned left into a parking lot for a strip mall. I had just parked by the street when I saw them leave her car and enter the motel lobby. A few minutes later, I watched as they walked along the balcony on the 2nd floor and entered a room. It didn't take a genius to figure out that they weren't going in there to study literature, more like biology. It was 2 hours later that I saw them leave the room. By this time, I had my camera ready. I always carry my camera with me to capture project pictures. I had the zoom lens on, ensuring detailed photos. He had his hand on her backside as they walked back towards the lobby. This time, I could recognize the guy. He was the star receiver for the university football team. He was a senior this year and had scouts from every NFL team watching him every game. Most of the analysts predicted that he would be selected in the 1st round of the draft. The kid was on track for a successful career in the NFL. I'm a football fan, so I follow the games and analysis. It helps in office pools and betting. I win more than I lose. Well, that was a shocker. My wife was cheating on me. That was a complete deal breaker for me. We've had discussions about this before. Being faithful means a lot to me. It is a promise we made to each other before God, family, and friends. That is a vow that cannot be broken. Until death do you part. Okay, maybe there's the option of divorce. You don't want me anymore. Fine. If you're foolish enough to want to leave, I'm smart enough to let you. I fought for her once, and that was during our courtship and engagement. I won that fight when she said, I do. I shouldn't have to fight for her again. Okay, all the plans and decisions I had been considering needed to change. I needed a whole new plan. I waited about 10 minutes after they left before I started the car and headed to the sports bar. I brought my notepad with me and chose a booth in the back for some seclusion. I ordered a burger, beer, and a soda from the waitress, then began to devise my plan. I wrote down notes as I thought. There were 4 columns: what would likely happen to me, what to do about my daughters, what to do about my wife, and what to do about the guy. Me, did it really matter? Not particularly. There was a more pressing concern that made everything in this column irrelevant. There was no way I could forgive and forget what my wife did. There could be no possibility of reconciliation. There was also no future with my daughters either. While I loved them deeply, I would never be a part of their significant life events. I wouldn't attend their college graduations, walk them down the aisle, or experience being a grandparent. Speaking of my daughters, I needed to ensure they were taken care of. While they were grown adults and capable of taking care of themselves, I still wanted to support their success. They still had college to finish, gain work experience before taking over the firm, and become fully self-sufficient. If I could leave them more to enhance their lives, it would be a bonus. For my wife, I wanted to ensure she faced consequences for her actions. I wanted to show her the pain of betrayal. She wanted to cheat on me with some athlete? I would make sure she learned the consequences of infidelity. The guy, he had taken something precious away from me. I would make sure he experienced the same loss. Once I finished brainstorming, I started creating a flowchart. A flowchart is used to map out the steps or decisions of a process. It helps logically solve problems and identify possible obstacles ahead of time. It can be an effective tool to find solutions and plan ahead. 4 hours, 3 beers, and 2 double colas later, I had the outline of my plan. Unfortunately, 3 beers and 2 double colas later, I was not in any condition to deal with the jerk. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have done it, but I drove back to the office. I was far from dizzy. It had been 5 drinks in 4 hours, so I wasn't that bad. Still, I was probably over the limit. I have a small room with a bed and attached bathroom at the office. It was handy for those long nights when I was under a deadline and had to work long into the night. It wasn't unheard of for me to make use of it, but it wasn't a normal occurrence. I sent a short text to the jerk telling him that I had a deadline, and some issues came up. I was planning on a long night and just sleeping at the office. The next morning, I got up and continued my plans. By noon, I had everything written into detailed steps. By the end of the day, I had gone through every step, detail by detail, and revised as I found minor issues. I decided that I had 30 days to take care of everything before the last step. I stayed 2 hours later than usual rearranging the steps to fit the timeline before going home. By this time, I had control of my emotions enough to act somewhat normal. I had also concocted a cover story to give my partner for why I had been so worn out and what the doctor had said. Basically, I was going to tell him that age and overworking was beginning to take its toll. He wanted me to cut back a little on work and get more exercise. Of course, I would be too tired for romance for a while until my new lifestyle began to take effect. Yeah, my heart wasn't going anywhere near that awful place ever again, but he didn't need to know that. No telling how many other hearts he has broken. I managed to have a normal evening at home. I didn't have to fake being tired. I really was. Kim tried to be affectionate, but I was just too exhausted from the mental stress and the fitful sleep from last night. She asked about the project I was working on, and I gave her some made-up story about a time-sensitive design that had changed parameters. She never really involved herself in the company, so I could pretty much tell her anything, and she would believe me. The next morning, I was up early. I had some appointments to make and people to talk to. I should probably note here that the business, as well as most of everything we owned, was in just my name. Yes, we started the business after we were married, but I was the one with the income and credentials. It was formed as a sole proprietor with me being the owner. Kim's name was not on any of the paperwork. As for our house, again, the title and mortgage were just under my name. It was just easier that way. Kim had no income, so she would only lower the credit rating. It didn't matter to either of us at the time, because we were planning on spending the rest of our lives together. Even if something happened to me, Kim would be the beneficiary. I even made out a will stating that. By the end of the week, I had the new will signed and notarized. I had also hired a private investigator to watch my wife and gather more evidence on what she was doing. I had no doubts, but the girls would need more concrete proof. That was the easy step. The next few things would be a bit more complicated and require help outside the legal and business professionals. "Carly, how's my favorite sister today?" I said when she answered her phone. "I damn well better be your favorite sister, since I'm the only sister you have, jerk," she replied. "Now, what do you want?" "What do I want?" "I'm deeply offended that you immediately assume that I want something when I call you." Yeah. When you start the conversation with that favorite garbage, you always want something. What is it?" "Well, aside from your sarcastic remarks, I do want to see my favorite and most beautiful sister. It's been a while, and I thought that you might like for me to treat you to lunch today." Oh shoot. It's worse than I thought. Favorite, beautiful, and you buying. Hold on while I look up to the sky and see if the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are coming. My sister and I got along really well. We were pretty much all we had anymore since our parents died. She had divorced her cheating husband about 5 years ago. Since then, she had gone back to school and gotten her MBA. She was currently an accounts manager at a manufacturing firm in town. They were one of my clients. Truthfully, she was too smart for that position and only needed experience and time before she would become a vice president. If she had gotten the MBA and started with them right out of college, she very well could have been CEO by this point. Instead, she got married to that mean person and dropped out of the workforce for a while. Seriously, Car. I do need your help. I need to see you today. Take the whole afternoon off and meet me at Hammerhead's at 11 o'clock. My voice was desperate, and I'm sure that she could hear the cracking in it. Oh shoot. It's bad, isn't it? It's worse than you could even begin to imagine. Please, Car. Of course, big bro, I'll be there. Not only are you my big brother, but we both know that I owe you everything for what you've done for me. You don't owe me anything, sis. I did what I did because you are family. You needed help, and I just did what family does. Fine, then I'll do what family does this time. I was at the same table in the back corner when she walked in. The hostess pointed in my direction, and she came over and sat across from me. "Do you have to go back today?" I asked. "Nope. You asked for me to take the afternoon off, so I did," she replied. Hearing that, I placed our order with the waitress. I knew what she liked, so I just ordered for both of us. Cola at this time? Shoot, it must be the apocalypse. "Pretty much," I replied. "Okay, Carly, here it is. You know that I've been wanting you to come over and work for me. I understand that you want to be on your own and earning your own way." You think that working for your family will make it seem nepotism. That simply isn't the case. You are very good at what you do and you are being undervalued where you work. I really need you now. Look, Dan, I appreciate the offer. I really do. I'm just not sure how it would work. I know we get along fine, but how would that change if you became my boss? I've heard horror stories about when family members go to work for their relatives. Sigh, okay, Carr. I didn't want to have to do it this way, but I'm desperate. When I said that I need you to work for my company, it wasn't an overstatement. I don't just need you to come to work for my firm. I need you to take over as CEO. I need you to run the firm, at least until Gina and Sue are ready to take over. I need you to mentor them and prepare them for that. When they turn 30 years old, you can begin transferring responsibilities if you feel that they are ready. Gina will most likely take over as COO, and Sue will become CEO. By then, you should be able to retire or work as a consultant occasionally. Dan, you're kind of starting to worry me. If I take over your firm and train your daughters to take over when they graduate, what will you be doing? I couldn't help but notice that you left that part out. This is why I wanted you to just accept my offer. I didn't want to go into this right now. I had hoped to tell you differently. Now, I'm going to have to guilt you into it. I sighed. Carly, I found out 2 things a week ago, both on the same day. No one else knows this, but I'm dying. I have pancreatic cancer. There's nothing that they can do. I will be lucky to live for another 6 months. It's probably more like 3 or 4 months. Things are going to be going downhill fast. The other thing is that Kim is cheating on me with at least one of the students at the college she tutors at. I'm setting things up for the girls, and you are going to be trustee of the estate. Kim won't get anything. Everything is being set up in trusts that you will administer with the help of my lawyer. I've already made plans for the future. I've transferred ownership of the business into an LLC with you, Gina, and Sue as the owners. I sold the house to the firm, so now it's owned by the LLC as well. I need you to give notice at your current job, then start spending a few hours every evening and some time on weekends at my office over the next 2 weeks. We'll use that time to train you so you can take over once you leave your job. I'll be there to help for a week or 2, but not any longer than that. We sat quietly for a moment. She was processing what I had just told her, and I was waiting for her to understand. Our food arrived, and we ate in silence. As the waitress collected our empty plates, Carly asked for another round of drinks. You're putting me in a tough spot, she finally said. But I'll do it. I don't really have much of a choice. I know. I'm sorry. Trust me, I wish I didn't have to do this. There are a few other things I need you to do, but we can go over that later. Will I be annoyed by those other things? She asked with a smile. You have no idea, I replied. So, we spent the rest of the afternoon discussing the business and what she needed to do to prepare. She wasn't an engineer, but her role was mainly on the business side. I assured her I would promote one of my senior engineers to assist with that aspect. We returned to my office and went through the accounts and other information she needed to know. Before we left for the day, she used my computer to write a resignation letter for her job. Things started moving quickly after that. I could feel myself becoming more tired every day. I spent long hours at the office taking care of the business and training Carly in the evenings. We even spent several hours on weekends at the office. Kim started to worry about me being overworked. I would come home, grab a quick bite, and pass out in bed. Kim tried to talk to me about my long hours. I explained that I had a couple of important projects and changes to make, but it would all be completed in a couple of more weeks. I assured her that I was making these changes to make everything run smoother in the future. She wasn't happy, but she seemed to understand. It was Friday. Kim's last day at her job, and she would officially take over on Monday. The private investigator had finished their work, and I was sitting in their office going over the results. It was confirmed that she was having an affair with the football player. They would meet up 3 times a week and go to a motel. There were even photos and a short video taken discreetly. It was undeniable that they were together. I thanked the investigator and paid them before receiving the file and a thumb drive. On Sunday evening, Carly and I finished going over everything so she could start the next morning. It had been a long day, and I felt the exhaustion settling in. I knew I had to wrap things up that week before I became too weak to do so. All right, Carly, we've covered most of what you need to do. As of 7 a.m. tomorrow, you'll be in charge. We've met with the lawyer and accountant, and all the necessary documents have been signed. You officially have control over the trusts and the LLC. I can't tell you when, where, or what, but I need you to help me when my lawyer contacts you. Are you going to do something reckless? She asked. That's subjective, but most likely. Okay, but please don't do anything that would risk lives. I want them to feel regret for their actions. I won't physically harm anyone. Still, I'm not sure if Kim would be willing to help me out. All right, Wednesday. It was 2:00 in the afternoon. I crouched behind a big SUV next to my wife's car. It was parked in a motel parking lot. I overheard them talking as they made their way back to the car. I knew I had to act quickly. He was much bigger and stronger than me, and being sick weakened me further. The moment he unlocked the car, I attacked. I swung the bat as I spun around the back of the SUV. Kim's eyes widened at the sight of me. She didn't even have time to warn the football player as the bat came down with force on his right hand that was resting on the car. Then, I brought the bat around in an uppercut motion, hitting him in the groin. He fell to the ground, clutching his hand and groaning in pain. As he writhed on the pavement, I struck both of his knees with the bat, shattering his kneecaps. Another strike to his groin, then I aimed for his elbows. Just as I shattered his right elbow, a blinding pain surged through my body. I stiffened, convulsed, and blacked out. When I regained consciousness, I was lying on the pavement with my wrists cuffed behind my back. I learned that a police car happened to be passing by when I attacked. The officers witnessed the incident and tased me to prevent further harm. 3 more patrol cars arrived along with an ambulance. Once I was conscious, I was placed in the back of one of the police cars. I watched as my hysterical wife gave a detailed account of what happened to a policewoman. Eventually, I was taken to the police station and booked. The DA had a very strong case against me, and she knew it. However, due to the backlog of court cases, she offered me a plea deal. My lawyer presented it to me, but I declined. And now, we find ourselves back at the beginning of this story. Are you out of your mind? My lawyer, Donald Jenkins, exclaimed. They have overwhelming evidence. There are witnesses, including your wife, not to mention the clear videos from 3 separate security cameras, all in broad daylight. Your fingerprints and DNA are all over the weapon you used. Your motive is well documented. Plus, the police officers caught you in the act with their body cams recording it. Yes, he made valid points. From a rational perspective, it seemed insane to reject the plea deal I was being offered. Pleading guilty would result in a 5-year sentence with 5 years of probation, whereas going to trial and being convicted could lead to 15 to 20 years. But if I were a normal but intelligent person, I probably wouldn't be in this situation to begin with. It would have been better if I hadn't committed the crime or at least tried covering my tracks more effectively. But I did it, and I did it, and I didn't care who knew. Listen, I hired you to represent and advise me. I'm telling you, I don't stand a chance in court. The DA is offering this deal because of the backlog. Taking the deal would save time and money without the need for a trial. My best advice is to accept the deal and serve the least amount of time possible. Going to trial would only cost you a lot of money to make things worse for yourself. Okay, counselor, when will the trial be? How long will it last? And when is the sentencing? I asked. He looked at me, trying to comprehend the fact that I simply didn't care. Due to the backlog, the actual trial won't be for another 6 months. Before that, there will be an arraignment, hearings, motions to be heard, and other procedures. All we can do is try to delay the trial, but it won't change the outcome. Fine. You need to call my sister and let her know what my bail will be. She'll bail me out. That won't be cheap. Not your concern. Also, send her your invoices. She'll take care of them. He left, probably considering getting a mental evaluation for me. Maybe an insanity defense could be an option. It didn't matter to me. I had no problem paying more money to him for his efforts, even though it wouldn't change the outcome. To my surprise, Kim came to visit me in jail. I was still awaiting bail. Carly was supposed to bail me out, but she wanted me to wait a couple days to cool down after the incident. I'm sorry, she began. Okay. The next day, I was released on bail. Carly picked me up and took me back to the office. Well, if you wanted to ruin his life, you succeeded. He will never play sports again, not even for fun. His right hand is injured. They expect that he will only recover 50% of its use at best. Both knees are damaged. He will be able to walk again. But that's about it. His elbow will never fully extend either, she said after we sat down in her office. So I succeeded then? Why so much damage? Simple. He took away one of the most precious things I had. I decided to return the favor. He took away my wife. I took away his football playing. An eye for an eye. A future for a future. You realize that they are going to take legal action, don't you? Take legal action against who and for what? They are going to sue me? I'll be gone long before it ever goes to court. If they try to go after my assets, they'll find that I don't have any. All I have at this point is a couple $1,000s to survive on for another couple of months. They can sue all they want, but there is nothing for them to collect. They can't go after the firm because I had already removed myself from it. They can't go after the girls because they are legal adults and on their own. The only person that they can go after is Kim, and I really don't care about that. Besides, she doesn't have any money for them to collect either. Okay. So what's your plan now? Simple. I'm going to die. I turned down the deal that I was offered. It will be a couple of months before it can go to trial, and I will be gone by that time. You really need to talk to your daughters. They need to know, and they're really freaking out about what you did. I was planning on doing that this evening. Actually, you can do it in a few minutes. They're on their way. I've got the conference room reserved for you for the rest of the day. A half an hour later, and I was sitting across from my two daughters at the table in the conference room. Daddy, what the heck? The videos of you beating that kid with a baseball bat is all over the news. And what the heck was Mom doing there? Gina asked. I slid a file over to them. Your mom was there because they had just left the motel room they were together in. He was your mom's lover. That file is from the pie I hired. Did you know that he was a star football player at the university and that he was expected to be drafted in the first or second round? You ruined his career. Yes, I knew that. I did it on purpose. He took away the love of my life, so I took away what he loves. But now he will sue you for everything you have, and you will be going to jail for a long time. Neither of those things will happen. First off, I made sure that I had nothing to lose. I do not have any assets that anyone can take. The firm is no longer in my name. It is now owned by an LLC in Carly and your names. All of the money is in trust funds for you two. The house is actually in the trust funds in your two names. You own everything. Carly is executor of the trust. Your mother has no access to any of it. What you do for her is no longer my concern. Is there any chance that you can reconcile before you go to jail? No chance at all, and I already said that I won't be going to jail. Dad, be real. There is no possible way that you won't be convicted. We've been watching every show about it and going over all the articles. There's no possible way for you to get away with what you did. I'm not getting away with it. I'm not even trying to. My emotions had been welling up from the time my beautiful daughters walked into the room. It suddenly hit me like a truck. I wouldn't be there for their college graduations. I wouldn't be there to walk them down the aisle for their weddings. I would never be able to hold my grandchildren. I was sobbing. I felt two presences beside me, and they were holding me with their arms wrapped around me. Oh God. What's wrong, Daddy? Susan asked. I'm dying, babies. I have a really bad cancer. I only have about 2 more months at best. NNNOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOO all three of us. I looked and saw the tears flowing down Carly's cheeks. The four of us sat there crying for a few more minutes until we were able to get control of our emotions. Finally, I directed the girls back to their chairs. As you can see, I will be long gone before my trial even starts. Also, I will be dead before any lawsuit can even get started. Once I'm gone, there will be nothing that they can get from me. Everything that I had was all gotten rid of long before the attack. They can't even go after the house because I sold it to the LLC. The money from the sale went into the trust. That trust will be available to you when you turn 30 years old. I have no assets. I cashed out all my investments and donated it to charities. Why didn't you tell us this before now? Gina queried. I found out about a month ago. Just after I left the doctor's office, I saw your mother's car leave the university. Her lover was driving it, and she was in the passenger seat. I followed them to the motel they went to. I watched them walk into the room, then waited about 2 hours for them to leave. I was devastated. Not only had I just found out that I only had a few months left to live, but then discovered that the love of my life was cheating on me. I spent the next 2 days planning what I would do. This is the end result of that planning. We talked and cried together for another hour. Then it was time for business again. I called Carly in for this. We went over the new organizational structure for the firm. When Gina graduates, she will start working with the engineers. She will be involved with all the projects and sit in with the management meetings. Once she gets her engineering license, she will be given her own projects to manage. Over time, she will become involved with helping Carly with running the company. It is hoped that by the time Gina turns 30, she can take over as COO. As for Sue, she will become Carly's assistant when she graduates. She will be working side by side with Carly on the business side of the firm. Sue will take over as CEO when she is ready. With Gina on the operations side and Sue on the business side, things should work well. Carly will also be available for advice and mediator between the two of them. It was a week later. I was living with my sister, and I hadn't talked to Kim since she visited me in jail. I was sitting on the couch in Carly's living room. There were bright lights shining on me and a rather attractive redhead sitting across from me. Good morning. This is Amy Brown with Crap News. I'm here with Dan Malloy, who has been charged with causing serious harm in the vicious attack on star wide receiver Jamal Washington. Mr. Malloy has graciously agreed to an interview. She began for the cameras. She then turned to me. Mr. Malloy, I'm actually surprised that you are doing an interview. Aren't you worried about the gag order issued by the judge on this case? Not worried at all. There really isn't much that he can do about it. By the time this airs and he sees it, he won't be able to do anything about it. But he could cite you with contempt and put you in jail. Laugh well. I do have contempt for the divorce laws in this country. Look at them. A wife can do whatever she wants. If her husband tries to divorce her, she gets the kids' house, child support, and maintenance. She will usually get most of the other assets as well. The poor guy that married her ends up living in a cheap apartment eating instant noodles while paying most of his income for his ex-wife to party with her string of lovers. They reward the cheaters and punish those who did nothing wrong. Aren't you worried about going to jail? Not in the least. What about the lengthy prison sentence that you are facing? First off, I haven't actually been convicted of anything. There is always that innocent until proven guilty thing we have in this country. Yes, but you must agree that there is overwhelming evidence against you, yes. I am aware of that. I'm not the least bit worried about it. Okay, I can't wait to find out how you can be so confident about that, but what about Jamal's lawsuit against you? I understand that he is demanding over $40 million in lost income, pain, and suffering. Blood from a stone. Not going to happen. I have nothing to take. I am unemployed and homeless. I have no assets, but you have a successful engineering firm and a huge house. No, Alaiste. I don't. I sold the business and the house over a month ago. Everything I owned, I put in trust funds to ensure that my children would be taken care of if something happened to me. It was all completely legal and ethical. All taxes were properly paid. I cashed out all of my investments and gave everything to charity. I don't even have wages to garnish. Okay, back to the attack. You have never denied that you did it, but you never said why. Why did you attack him, and why so viciously? It seems as if you deliberately targeted those areas that would ruin any chance at a career in the NFL. Oh, that was definitely my goal. Had the police not tasered me when they did, I would have severely injured his other elbow before stopping. It was never my intention to harm him fatally, just render him unable to play football and impact his future. That attempted murder charge the DA threw in is a joke. My intention was never to cause his death. In fact, I purposely avoided hitting him in any way that could have been life-threatening. If I wanted to do that, my first hit would have been to his head instead of his hand. So why did you attack him in the first place? Isn't it obvious? Where did the attack happen? In a motel parking lot. Who was with him? My wife. They were having an affair. They had just come out of the room they had been in for 2 hours. I decided that if he could take away the most precious thing in my life, my soulmate, I would take away the most important thing in his life, his football career. Making him powerless was just an added benefit. I see. You certainly accomplished your goal. What about your wife? After all, it takes two to tango. Do you plan on any retaliation towards her? I do, but I won't reveal it now. I won't use any physical harm against her, so you don't have to worry about that. My revenge on her for cheating will be perfectly lawful. Oh, she will suffer greatly, but she won't be able to do anything about it. In fact, what I have planned is already done, but she doesn't know it yet. When will she find out? When will this interview air? Uwakekekei, back to your upcoming legal proceedings. It's not upcoming. I still haven't been convicted in a court of law, okay then. How about we say back to your probable conviction and imprisonment? Much better. So why are you so confident that you won't be convicted and sent to prison? Let me start by telling you about the events of a day a little over a month ago. I had been feeling really tired and worn out for a while, so I went to the doctor to get checked out. About a week later, I went in to get the results. They weren't good. I had just left the doctor's office when I saw my wife's car leaving the university campus. I thought that it was odd because Jamal was driving her car, and Kim was in the passenger seat. I followed them to the motel and waited for 2 hours for them to come out. A couple of things to note here. Kim is a certified tutor for the university. In effect, she is part of the faculty. Even being a volunteer, she is still under the regulations of the faculty as far as student relationships go. Being a tutor, she has authority over her students, but just like one of their professors. I remember a trip to Cancun once where I met a couple of women college professors. They were both single and looking for some college guys to hang out with for the week. While we were talking, I mentioned that I thought relationships between professors and students were illegal because of the positions of authority that the professors had. They laughed and said the law doesn't say that we can't be romantically involved with students. It only says we can't be romantically involved with our students. Well, Jamal was one of Kim's students. So back to your question. After seeing what I did, I hired a private investigator to gather solid evidence of what I witnessed. I also began making arrangements for what the doctor had told me. Originally, those arrangements were meant to include taking care of Kim. After what I saw, I simply removed that part from the plans. Now, everything that I did was to ensure that my daughters were taken care of. They were always going to take over the business eventually. I just made it official. I also hired a really talented businesswoman to act as CEO and prepare the girls for taking over when they are ready. I also transferred the company from being solely mine to an LLC and transferred the authority out of my name. Any money I had was placed in a trust fund for the girls, managed by someone else. I also transferred the ownership of my house to the trust fund as a gift to the girls. So I am not worried at all about any possible consequences, because I won't be around to face them. The doctor told me that I have an extremely aggressive pancreatic cancer. It is untreatable. At best, I have 2 months left. More than likely, that I will be deceased within a month. My trial won't even start for another 3 months. What are they going to do? Put my lifeless body in a prison cell? As for my wife, I am leaving her with nothing. Maybe our daughters will offer her help and support. It's not my concern anymore. Also, the file documenting her affair with her student will be submitted to the university board, as well as the proper law enforcement agencies. I also have a copy for you, if you would like. I should mention that copies will also be sent to all the major news media outlets, too. You just ruined their lives. Don't you think that was a bit much? Not at all. They ruined my life, or what was left of it. Imagine if you were given the worst news possible, and all you wanted was to be comforted by your spouse. Instead, less than half an hour later, you discover that your spouse is cheating on you. Yes, I'm going to die soon, but they took away my chance to be comforted by my wife in my final days. They destroyed what was left of my life, so I destroyed theirs. At least they will be alive and have the opportunity to rebuild. Screw Jamal. He's in college, he can use his degree and pursue a different career. That's a laugh. In case you didn't know it, Jamal is far from an outstanding student. In fact, the university has already initiated an investigation on him, and they have already found that he was only maintaining eligibility to play because he was getting some of the other tutors to write his papers and do his homework for him. He will most likely be expelled, and any classes that he already passed will be changed to failed if they find evidence of cheating. He won't be earning a degree, and he won't be accepted to any other college in the country. Perhaps he can at least serve as an example for all the other scumbags. I shrugged. Okay, that's all the time we have. Thank you for agreeing to this interview. This is Amy Brown with Crap News. Amy gathered her notes and stood up. She shook my hand and handed me a note before she left. After she walked out, a stunning blonde entered and sat down. A few minutes later, she was ready, and the bright light came back on. This is Jessica Moore with Cunt News. I'm here with. The judge was going to be seriously angry when these interviews were aired. I figured it was best to get them all done in one day before he could take any action. This was my last day of freedom anyways. It didn't matter where I would be tomorrow. If he wanted to throw me in jail for contempt, it was going to cost him a lot. My lawyer would make sure of that. Well, that pretty much wraps things up. I had packed what few things I would still be able to use before the first interview. I was exhausted by the time the day was over. Early the next morning, Carly drove me to the hospice where I would stay until the end. Yes, the judge held me in contempt. He was about to send officers to arrest me when my lawyer and doctor informed him that I needed to be placed in the infirmary due to my health. The cost of that would be high. They also made a point of mentioning it to the media. Instead, he ordered an ankle monitor to be put on me to ensure I didn't leave the hospice house. I chuckled. There was nowhere for me to go anyways. Carly and the girls visited me almost every day. I understood that they couldn't always make it, but they were there when they could. Other times, I was able to video chat with them for a while. They kept me updated on everything. Kim tried to visit me, but I had banned her from my list of visitors. She gave the girls letters to give to me. They handed them to me when they arrived, and I simply tossed them in the trash after they left. I had no interest in anything she had to say. The DA initially tried to expedite the trial date. My lawyer fought against it. It soon became clear that it didn't matter, I wouldn't be able to attend anyways. My lawyer then launched a public campaign against the DA, highlighting how they were wasting money and resources on a case where the defendant would be deceased before going to trial. Being smart, the DA quietly dropped the case. Yes, there was a lawsuit filed. It named both Kim and me. Since we were still married, she would be responsible for my debts after I passed away. That gave me a chuckle. My girls are here with me. So is Carly. I'm so tired. I can feel that this is the end. I don't want to fight it anymore. I have nothing left and no reason to keep going. I see one more person slowly entering my room. Kim, my wife. I haven't seen her since she visited me in jail right after I was arrested. Yes, I asked her to come. She nervously walks into the room and slides up beside the bed. I'm sorry, she says. I know. I'm sorry too. I went too far with you. No, you didn't. If you would have left me anything, it would have just been taken in the lawsuit. Besides, I'm the one who messed up and had an affair. I forgive you for that. I've asked the girls to make sure that you are taken care of. I don't want you to struggle or be without a place to live. I forgive you as well. That's probably for the best. That person will undoubtedly try to take anything that I own. As long as I have a place to live and enough to get by, that will be fine. I'm sorry that I couldn't support you these last few months. That was all my fault. I will have to live with that regret for the rest of my life. Don't be too hard on yourself. I walked away from you. I could have just talked to you and made my peace with it. Instead, I acted out of retaliation. You did what you thought you had to do. You were rightfully angry. Please know this, I never stopped loving you. I will love you till my dying day. When that happens, we will meet again, and I will love you forever. You are my soulmate. I forgot that for a while, but I came back. I see that you are tired now. Sleep, my love. Go in peace. We will meet again. Daddy drifted off. We all stayed as his breathing slowly slowed down until it finally stopped. The beeping of the machines became a single tone and Daddy was gone. I'm Gina. The last conversation was written by me. I found Daddy's notebook after they came and took his body away. I read what he had written about the events over the last months of his life. After discussing it with Mom, Carly, and Sue, we decided that I should finish his story. Daddy had prepaid for his funeral. He also had a funeral account created for when Mom needed it. The plots were already purchased as well. We decided on a private ceremony. It was just family, but we did agree that 2 reporters could attend and capture the moments on camera. We were clear that they should not cause a scene. It was nice, and Amy and Jessica were very respectful. I have to giggle a bit here, because I found out later that Daddy met both reporters separately at a hotel room for one last gathering before he went to the hospice. Jamal did proceed with the lawsuit against Daddy's estate. As you know by now, there wasn't an estate to go after. They tried to go after the business and the trust funds, but we were successful in getting those suits thrown out. Daddy had nothing to do with the firm at the time of the attack, and the trust funds were untouchable. Besides, Carly, Sue, and I were not involved in any way. Mom didn't fare as well. She was subject to a $20 million judgment. Although she had nothing that they could take, the judgment is still there. Sue and I hired Mom as a cook and housekeeper. She gets free room and board. We make sure that she has enough cash to have her entertainment that she needs. Everything is legal and above board, at least as far as anyone has been able to prove. His lawyers sniff around every once in a while. They don't get paid unless he can collect. He doesn't have any money to pay them. It's inconvenient for them. Eventually, they will get tired of it and give up. At least until Mom coming into a pile of money becomes public knowledge. Still, everything is kept out of her name. She has suffered enough. No sense in adding to it. Mom doesn't really date. She does socialize with groups of her friends. She occasionally doesn't come home until the next morning. None of them are serious, just a friends with benefits thing. She is adamant that she will never have another serious relationship again. She will remain free until she meets up with Daddy again. As for Jamal, he lives with his parents. His bedroom is on the first floor because he can't use stairs very well. He was expelled as expected, and he refused to even think of applying at another school. He just sits around playing video games as he waits to collect on his judgment. That's probably why his parents are putting up with him, although I have been hearing some rumblings that they are getting tired of waiting. Jamal may soon find himself with a choice between being evicted or start adulting. So, that's where things stand for now. Sue and I did take over the firm, and Aunt Carly stops by occasionally to assist. She's retired now and living a nice life. She even takes Mom on a cruise with her a couple of times a year. Sue has a steady boyfriend right now, and it looks pretty serious. As for me, well, I haven't found any guys that seem to be Mr. Right. There are a few lovers that are MS. Right now, though, one of which just might lose the last word in that title soon. Her name is Amy, and she is a reporter for the local news.